Hi guys, welcome to the second episode of Lucy the Epi-Kitty. I realized that the first episode was a little all over the place, so I did want to kind of put together something that was a little bit more structured. A couple weeks ago when I posted on my Facebook that I would be putting together this channel, I did actually put together an episode list, but I feel like I was so anxious to shoot the first episode that I kind of ignored any sort of structure, maybe told you some things that were a little bit confusing, didn't get into details. So this episode is primarily going to be focused on the cost and sacrifices of having a cat with epilepsy. So when I talk about cost, I'm not talking just about dollar signs. I'm not just talking about how much it costs, although I will get into that for Lucy's regimen, and every cat is different. I'm also going to be talking about the costs on your personal life and the sacrifices that you have to make to administer medicine, on a schedule, especially when you're looking at a cat that requires medicine twice, sometimes even 3 times a day. With people who actually manage epilepsy on Keppra, the recommended time between doses is 8 hours. So for people that are managing epilepsy on Keppra alone, the best results are 3 times a day. Again, full disclosure, I am not a veterinarian. I have absolutely no medical background, so please don't use this video as any sort of advice. Always consult your veterinarian for any sort of practices and any sort of medication that you administer, because like I said in episode 1, Lucy is definitely on the extreme side of epilepsy. She had really long seizures, really frequent seizures. Again, so this is not a regimen for every cat, and obviously she is not doing well, so this regimen is a harsh one, but I'm gonna break it down for you. So let's go down her medication, right? So right now, this is her phenobarbital, right? You probably can't even see it. It says phenobarbital though. Phenobarbital is, for this, it's about $46 for every 3 months. She takes half of a 15 milligram pill. It was for a little bit 3 times a day, but now that the phenobarbital levels are super high and her liver is slowly starting to give out, we dropped it back down to twice a day. So that comes out to about $15.30 a month for the phenobarbital. Now I'm going to get into gabapentin. So this is what the gabapentin looks like. Again, the picture quality is not so great, but they're little capsules. She isn't repulsed by the taste of this, so I actually will just open the gabapentin and spill half of it in her food, because this is a 100 milligram pill. So I'll do that twice a day. It also works doubly for her anxiety, so it's for seizure management and it's for anxiety. She can be a bit anxious. I think she may have a history of abuse, but aren't sure. But she's an anxious cat. That is about $45 for every 2 months, so about $22.50 a month. $22.50 a month. We have zonisamide. This was actually incorporated into regimen relatively recently, since she started having breakthrough seizures. She doesn't have insurance, as I'm sure you guys have all gathered, because I'm breaking down the cost over here. I've got her with this condition. There's no Obamacare for cats with pre-existing conditions, or animals in general with pre-existing conditions, at least that I know of. Certainly not, I couldn't imagine there'd be an insurance company that would take her. But this is about $30 for 2 months, 25 milligrams she takes once a day. Honestly, I'm not so sure it's doing anything for her. I may just decide if the dropping of the phenobarbital doesn't really do much. I may see what it's like to just take it out and see if it makes any difference. Naturally, I'm going to consult my vet about that. But if her liver's not doing well and this is somehow contributing, But anyway, that comes out to, so it's $30 for 2 months, so that comes out to about $19 a month. And then we have her Lifeline. Now, this is, I think it's pronounced midazolam. It's essentially like ketamine. It's very, very strong. This I only administer in emergency situations. Now, this is a very expensive drug, but it is her lifeline. So when she has these new myoclonic cluster seizures, which again I'm going to get into in a later episode, I administer 0.5 milliliters, which is a lot for a 6-pound cat, and it basically knocks her out intranasally. So I'll just, dip this little syringe in there, take out 0.5, and put it up her nose when she has one of those myoclonic cluster seizures. This is about $50. Oftentimes she will require more than one because the half-life on midazolam is very short, so she will have seizure activity fairly shortly after, one after another. So sometimes she requires like 2-3 administrations of midazolam when she has those cluster seizures, the myoclonic cluster seizures. This is $50, so about $50 a month. Coming out to about $106.80 a month. We also have, now I don't administer this to her daily because quite frankly she's on so many medications, and I'm always open to trying new things, but this is CBD. Everyone always asks me about CBD, and I'm going to get into CBD in a later episode, but for the love of God, if you're on this channel and you know somebody with who has an epileptic cat, believe me when I say a lot of pet owners are going to try CBD. It works for some. I'm not knocking, the science behind it or saying that it's not effective. It's just, it didn't really do much for Lucy. This right here is 15 milliliters in here. It's actually not a lot. I really am only going to be giving this to her when she has seizures now. This is $70. So this is not a cheap one. This is a prescription one, I guess. There's a feline oil on it. I can't speak to it because I've only administered it to her once while she was having a seizure, and I don't really think it did much for her. But like I said, if you're coming across this channel, please, nothing in the comments about have I tried CBD, because the answer to that question is, of course I've tried CBD. I've tried everything natural you could possibly imagine, as I'm sure most pet owners who have an animal with epilepsy have tried CBD. So do not put anything in the comments about have I tried CBD, because yes, I've tried CBD. It's not a miracle drug. It's not a cure for epilepsy. I'm not saying that it doesn't help. But anyway, that's $70, but I don't really get that for her every month. It's just something new that I'm trying. So, I'm gonna, without the CBD, it's $106.80 a month. With the CBD, let's just say, a little bit more than that. But again, without the CBD, I'm looking at about $1,281.60 on just these 3 medications: phenobarbital, gabapentin, and niacinamide. And the midazolam. So that's about $1,281.60 a year. Now, you do have to go in for checkups at least twice a year, possibly more. So I'm looking at about $400 twice a year for checkups, possibly more. So you're looking at about $2,000 a year. I've had her for nearly 5 years. So over the course of that, I've probably spent, and if my mother is watching, you may want to turn the channel off, but I'll just remind you that you did spend a lot of money on our dog's insulin and the wheelchair that she needed, so don't judge me, Mom. But I probably spent about $10,000 on her care. And that does not include like miscellaneous items like these bad boys, pill packets. Anyone with an epileptic cat will know what these are. They make it easier to pill the cat. I've actually stopped doing that because Sometimes she, I notice, does spit out the pill, and it'll cause these mild clonic cluster seizures. So I want to be a little bit more careful with actually administering, and I want to literally pill her. So these, I mean, maybe they're about $6 a pack. There's about 45 in here. This happens to be her favorite flavor. If it's the wrong flavor, if it's tuna, she won't touch the pill pocket. My fiance typically administers medicine with these, whereas I've recently been, you know, just pilling her. And, you know, maybe some people would say it's not necessarily the best way to do it, but I just kind of freehand it, hold her, and I'm going to show you a video of it. Again, that's not the point of this video, but I'm just saying that, like, it adds up. Then you have, like, miscellaneous items, right? So this is I think they call it a pill shooter, pill gun, right? You put the pill in here with a little bit of water. I don't really use this unless she's being difficult, or, you know, or we're away and I don't want to get bit. And then other miscellaneous things like this. This is a pill cutter. So for her phenobarbital, slice it in half, right? It's really difficult. It's a very, very small pill. Let me see if I can show you. This is how small the pill is. I mean, that's pretty small. So to cut this in half, you're going to need something like a pill cutter. So after all said and done, you're looking at over like $2,000 a year. And that doesn't include kitty litter, cat food, you know, toys, miscellaneous items, kitty litter, you know, the essentials that every cat needs. So when I say I spend $10,000, that's just for medical treatment. That doesn't include food. So it is not a cheap, it is certainly not a cheap thing to have an epileptic cat. Again, like I said, Lucy is one of the more severe cases, so there's a good chance that if you have an epileptic cat, you won't be spending as much, but if you have an epileptic cat with a more severe condition, you can look to spend about that much on your medication and your medical care. Now let's talk about the other cost, and that is the sacrifices that you make. Now look, we're in the pandemic right now, so I have the luxury of working from home, which is great, because I don't have, or I have the luxury of being able to pill her 3 times a day if necessary, which for a while she was, like I said, we switched her up to half of a 15 milligram phenobarbital pill 3 times a day, but now we're dropping that down to twice a day. But all that being said, this holds true in every case. You have to be diligent about administering the medication. You know, if it's 3 times a day, as close to 8 hours apart as you possibly can. If it's twice a day, as close to 12 hours apart as you possibly can. The reason is, obviously, the cat becomes at risk of having a seizure. So, what does that mean for your personal life? I'm not going to say that I don't have a social life at all, but every single thing that I do, whether it be going out to the bar with my friends, which Corona, we're not doing that anyway over here, at least in New York City, you have to be sure that you're home at the time to give her the medicine. Now, sometimes it's not possible, right? So I will give her maybe the CBD if I think I'm going to be like an hour late, or maybe I'll give her the zonisamide a little bit earlier if I think I'm going to, you know, not be home in time to give her dose. But you have to be flexible with your schedule, because the most important thing is that you're home on time to give this cat her medicine. And I realize that is a huge undertaking for a lot of people. And yeah, there's been a lot of sacrifices. Fortunately, I have a fiance that, you know, when he was working overnight shifts, he would give her the dose in the morning so I could kind of sleep in. But, you know, when we're back to a normal work schedule, if she's still here, if she's still around, if she's doing better, it is so important that you are administering the medicine, you know. Now it's going to be 12 hours apart, because it's a risk for a seizure. So yeah, I've had to cancel a lot of plans. I've had to leave early, come back. You know, I've I've had to give up a lot of vacations. Vacations are the hardest thing, obviously, because Lucy here is not good with traveling. We do occasionally take her with us. Like if we're going upstate to visit a friend, we'll take her with us. She doesn't like it. It really stresses her out. We keep her like in a playpen, and she's miserable the whole time, but at least she's with us, and I can see her and I can monitor her seizure activity if she has any, and I can administer emergency idoslam if I need to. But honestly, my fiance and I tried to go to the Catskills just last week, actually, to bring in the New Year together, because he was working on actual New Year's Eve. He's a cop, so we tried to, we did find a pet-friendly bed and breakfast, but it was kind of small, and she was just really miserable, so we left early because we knew she would be more comfortable here. We didn't get a lot of sleep. So the point that I'm trying to make is taking her with us is a last resort, because typically when we do take her with us somewhere, we don't get a lot of sleep because she's meowing and hissing and just all night. So it is a last resort. Oh, sorry, I needed to blow my nose. That being said, yeah, it's a huge sacrifice, and I think a lot of individuals probably would rather put their pet down than have to make that type of sacrifice. Now, I'm not saying I'm a saint for doing what I do. Over the last, a little bit more than the last 2 years, my fiance has been a big help, but it is a massive sacrifice. So there's been a lot of times where I wasn't able to go out. There's been a lot of times where I've had to leave early. There's just been a lot of times where I've had to say no, like I can't do this because I have to be home at, back then it was 8:30 p.m. to administer her PM dose. Now I'm doing 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. because, I kind of want to be able to sleep in on the weekends, but we'll see. So it's huge financial burden, but it's also a big burden on you to administer the medicine, to make sure she takes it, and if you have a camera running and you're not home, to watch her, see how she's doing. But all that kind of comes into play. The other thing I want to mention is medical boarding is incredibly costly. My fiance and I are getting married in April. Corona or no corona, we're getting married. Whether we're going to have the big reception that I dreamed of, I don't know. But I did look into what the cost of medical boarding is, and I'm looking at more than $1,000 for 2 weeks, and I know that she's going to be miserable the whole time. So that's something to take into consideration. Some epileptic cats are better with people. Lucy's, like I said, she has kind of a weird past. We don't know what happened to her. She could have been abused. She's anxious. She's happiest when she's home. But medical boarding doesn't even come into play for the cost that I quoted of about $2,000 a year for medical expenses. But you could basically kiss traveling goodbye unless you have a friend or a family member that's able to administer and pill the animal without any sort of issue. But as her condition continues to get worse and requires more medication, and as we started administering this as an emergency situation, and the whole protocol for when she has a seizure is really, really exhaustive. So the God's honest truth is I also don't trust anyone but myself to care for her. And that even holds true for a boarding facility. I feel like no one's going to take care of her the way that I take care of her. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the cost. And thank you for tuning into the second episode. In my next episode, I'm going to talk about pilling and compounded solutions. I realized I didn't mention in the first episode that compounded solutions are basically just liquid medicine, and what my thoughts on those are. We'll get into my whole kind of procedure for pilling her, and I'm going to have my fiance shoot a video of me pilling her tonight to kind of show you guys like what the routine is. Alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope, you know, this was somewhat informative. If you've had a cat that's recently been diagnosed with epilepsy, I hope this gives you an idea of kind of what to expect in terms of the cost and sacrifices. Bye guys.